According to recent research, 82% of employees quit because of bad managers, which means you could be failing, you just don't know it yet. And it's all because you're treating your employees the same way. If you just assume what motivates one person will also motivate the next, and you apply these kind of blanket expectations, consequences, and rewards across the board, in the wise words of Taylor Swift, because if you don't take the time to understand your team, you'll keep making the same mistakes thinking it's them, when really, it's on you. So I'm here to help you decode the top 5 strategies of the most successful managers so you can understand different employee types and build a better team. The workhorse, aka the overachiever who's gonna burn out. Now, on paper, this person seems like a dream, right? They stay late, they volunteer for extra tasks, they finish their work before the deadline, and still, somehow, they find time to help others too. But here's where it gets tricky. Workhorses don't tend to say no. They take on everything and they just keep going until suddenly they just can't. When someone's pushing themselves 24/7, 2 things are bound to happen. They either burn out or they start cutting corners. And guess who ends up dealing with that fallout? It's probably the manager, aka you. So this is where most managers go wrong. They see a high performer and they think, okay, let's give them more work to do. You shouldn't necessarily be burying them with more work. You should be pacing them. Because there's something nobody really talks about. Workhorses are the backbone of most companies. They're the ones quietly holding things together while everyone else is coasting. But if you don't protect them from themselves, you could essentially risk losing your strongest players. And while it is tempting to want a whole team of workhorses, that actually could be a bad idea, because if everyone's aiming for the top, where do they go next, right? Eventually there's nowhere left to promote them. Then what happens is they leave. And that's why balance matters. That's why you don't necessarily want your entire team of just A players. So this is what you can do. You prioritize their tasks, right? So you make sure they're taking real breaks. They're not just kind of eating lunch at their desk. You schedule one-on-one check-ins to assess how they're actually doing. So these can be done every week. And once you do this, a workhorse will be one of your most loyal assets of the company, and they will set a new standard for the entire team. But managing the workhorse is kind of the easy part. What's not so easy is dealing with the one who does the bare minimum and somehow still thinks they deserve a raise. So the bare minimum guy, aka the not my problem worker. So you know who I'm talking about, the employees that, let's say, they clock in at 9 a.m. exactly and they clock out at exactly 5 p.m. and in between he does what's required, no more, no less. So he's not necessarily lazy, he's not causing drama, he's just doing his job, which is a good thing. But if the business is literally on fire and his job description doesn't include putting out a fire, well, he's probably going to watch you burn. Now, don't get it twisted. This type of employee can be extremely valuable. They're very reliable, they follow direction, they do exactly what they're told, but that's the catch. They only do what they're told. So how do you manage an employee like that? Step 1, spell out your expectations, right? So be specific, be direct, and assume nothing. So if you want them doing even 1% extra work, say that you want 1% more from them, and then you give them something in return, like a small bonus maybe. But here's a fair warning. When you're building a team, the bare minimum guy could slow you down. And that's why some managers and owners like myself, we run a 14 to 30 day trial period. It's not to test their hard skills, because those hard skills are teachable, but it's to see if the person has the right mindset, the right soft skills. Because if someone shows signs of being kind of a bare minimum worker during their 2-week trial or their 4-week trial, they're not suddenly going to turn into a go-getter 6 months in, right? And the longer you wait, the worse the impact may be on the team. So here's the rule: let them go before they become a bigger problem, because keeping someone who's just occupying space could be costing you more than you think. But the bare minimum guy is at least predictable. The next type of employee is called the complainer, aka the one who always has a problem, never a solution. So Every team has that one employee who sees a problem in everything, whether that's the schedule is unfair, the workload is too much, and the coffee is not hot enough. It's like their full-time job is pointing out what's wrong and making you responsible for fixing it. So although the complainer, they can drain the energy from the room. However, these people can actually be very important to the team because they may be complaining or highlighting, let's say, things that other employees may not want to talk about or make brush under the rug or may just be too polite to mention, yet the complainer brings that problem to the attention of the manager. So complainers are not necessarily bad. But the first thing is that you do need to filter this noise, right? So is this thing that the complainer is complaining about, is it a legitimate complaint or is it just a rant? And a good way to check this is the next time they do mention a problem or complaint, then you can ask them, okay, do you have a solution in mind? And what you're doing there is you're asking them, you're encouraging them to be proactive in solving that problem as opposed to just complaining about it. So you're turning this negative thing into actually quite a positive thing because now you've given them the responsibility to essentially fix this problem. And the next employee we're going to call the social butterfly, aka everybody's friend. Now, social butterflies are very important in a team, and what I see often is when managers try to shut the social butterfly down completely, and that can often be a mistake because social butterflies, if you know how to manage them, can be extremely valuable to the team. For example, they make new hires feel welcome, they make awkward meetings fun, and they keep morale up. In fact, some leaders find that social butterflies become unofficial team connectors, bridging the gap between top management and everyone else in the hierarchy. They can actually help you stay in touch with your team. So the solution isn't to silence them, it's to redirect them, right? So to use that energy where it really matters. For example, customer service, team building exercises, or even mentoring new employees. That said, there is a hard line that you can let social butterflies cross, and that is gossip. The moment small talk turns into rumors, it really is important that you step in. And if you do all of this, you've got someone who makes your workplace a happy place, and who doesn't want to work in a happy place. So I know that it sounds like a lot of work, and you'll also feel that it's just easier to maybe even just fire problematic employees, but trust me, your small efforts could save you a lot of time and money. And if you're still having major team problems, drop your questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer each and every one of them.